In November of 2023, the Swell Pod took a 10-day journey across 5 states, traveling 3,580 miles with one challenge in mind.
And that challenge was to interview 100 pleasantly rebellious humans to uncover deep truths about what it takes to create something that has never existed before, challenge the status quo, maybe even change the world.
This is the Kiln Road Trip, created and produced by the Swell Pod,
in partnership with Kiln, Moterra Camper Vans, and sponsored by Taurus.
I'm Spencer McEwen.
And I'm Josh Taylor, and together we're the co-hosts of the Swell Pod and your guides on the Kiln Road Trip. Follow along on the journey.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, follow the Swell Pod on social media, and subscribe to your YouTube channel at, you guessed it, the Swell Pod.
This is interview 78 of the Kiln Road Trip, and today we're at Kiln Portland in Oregon talking with Chris Sumsky. Chris is the co-founder and studio director of Moonlight Kids. Moonlight Kids is a collaborative indie game studio spread across Portland, Oregon, Atlanta, Georgia, and Spokane, Washington. Their goal is to create outstanding games while nurturing positive growth, collaboration, and opportunities in the games community. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you enjoy.
All right. Well, Chris, thanks for coming down to the Swell Pod and the Kiln Road Trip. Thank you also for being one of the 100 guests for Pleasantly Rebellious People.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Could you give us a quick intro to, your name, what you do, and why this area is something you're focused your life on right now?
Yeah, sure. I'm Chris Sumsky. I make video games for a living. I co-own a studio called Moonlight Kids. Before that, I owned a different studio that made a bunch of work for hire video games, but this studio is the first time we've been making our own things that we own and sell and try to live off the revenue of the sales. So our last game was called The Wild at Heart. It was a game about 2 kids who get lost in the woods and all sort of shenanigans happen. They meet mysterious, magical creatures and mysterious bad guys and have to find their way home by befriending these little forest guys who help them out on their adventures. So, and then this time, this game we're working on is a time loop sci-fi action mystery thing, which we have not announced yet, but that's being sort of vague.
That's good. Well, okay, so let's not ask questions about that one.
We can talk about it a little bit.
A little bit, okay. Well, how did you? Okay, I mean, it's so cool. We have not had someone that develops games on.
This is a first
at the 100.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And I mean, how do you find yourself in this area? I mean, I guess kids playing games at school and they're like, I want to be a game developer. I've heard people say that, but they rarely kind of get there. How did you? Just give me a quick update of how you got from probably playing video games as a kid to actually developing them.
Totally. Yeah. So I definitely played a ton of games as a kid, and it was always, of course, one of those childhood dreams of becoming a game developer, but I never seriously considered it. I went to Georgia Tech and I thought I wanted to do film for a living, which Georgia Tech is not the best place to go if you want to do film, but I did the closest thing they had, which was a major called computational media. So I was doing a lot of computer science, a lot of liberal arts, Photoshop here, design theory there. It was kind of all over the place. But I did an internship and learned that I hated the film industry. And meanwhile, I was taking all these game courses, and I was like, maybe I actually can do this. So I kind of pivoted into games and did my master's in digital media to kind of focus on games, and then got a job at Cartoon Network, which was right across the street from my college.
Really?
And I was a producer there in their games group for about 4 years, and then quit that to try to do my own thing with another guy. So that's cool.
You said something. There was a moment, maybe it was not more than a moment, many moments, but you said, actually, maybe I could do this.
Mm-hmm.
What? Tell me more about that. How did it happen? Or I don't know.
Man, that's a really good question. I mean, I've always, me and my friends and my brother, we've always made stuff. Even, when we were kids, we'd take the little, our dad's handy cam and move the little Lego pieces and do stop motion Lego movies or go out. And one of our favorite things to make when we were probably 12, 13, 14 was movie trailers, for a movie that would never be made, but we enjoyed shooting and cutting trailers of made up movies. So we did a lot of that. And we basically turned every project we could in high school. Me and my friend, we were very persuasive to our teachers, and every project we turned it into a movie project. So I'd be like, oh, book report, can we make a movie for it? Oh, history project, can we make a movie for it? And did a lot of that in college. We made a lot of short films. So all that to say is I've always just enjoyed making things and telling stories. And video games was just a thing I liked playing. But when I actually got into course load about it, and also the computer science part, like I learned to write code, and then you kind of see through the veil of like, because before that I was like, I have no idea how games are made. It's like this mysterious thing that people go off and do, and I don't know the process. But once you start learning the process, and then how it kind of converges with storytelling and a lot of stuff, just the nitty gritty of like camera placement and movement and all that kind of stuff I enjoy from film, I was like, oh, wow. It just kind of like became a possibility I never considered before. And once that was on the table, I just put all my energy towards it, I guess. It wasn't like I made some like epiphanous decision or something. I just like, I never even thought about that I could do this. So then once I turned all my energy towards it, I just really tried to make it a reality.
That's great. So you kind of lent into, you were research and reading, thinking about it, right? And then you started light bulbs kind of like, oh,
right.
You just carried on following that path.
I took, some of my classes were just like, you spent the semester making a game. So that really helps just like understand the process behind all of it and all that stuff too. So.
Yeah. Well, one last question, unless you have one.
Go for it.
Yeah. So how did fast forward, like how did you get from, okay, so you went and learned those things, but to actually making it your day job, and I don't know where you are in the journey to profitability. Maybe that's already happened a while ago, but how did that happen to make it really real?
Yeah, so me and one of my partners, we went to college together, and we just, similar to how me and my buddies made movies for fun, we were just like, well, if we really want to do this, we should be making our own games and not just like relying on our coursework. So we started making a couple games. The first one was awful, and we never finished it. And the second one was pretty good, and we actually published it on the iTunes store, like, early iTunes, like 2010, early App Store. It didn't do well, but we had like a published thing, and that helped us get,
Is that still available?
Sorry. No, I don't think it's been available for a long time. It's called Token Master, but that helped me get my job at Cartoon Network and all that. And then, being a producer was great now, but I really just missed making stuff, which is when we decided to quit our day jobs and go back into that side. And we didn't know if we were going to make it or not, but I was like, well, my job at Cartoon Network got me all this connection, so we just turned around and pitched Cartoon Network. So
pitched it to them.
So you were building? I guess I should explain what my job was there a little more.
Yeah.
Cartoon Network almost made no games in-house. So they have all their properties, their shows, and then they hire third-party studios to make the games based on those shows. And this was like, at the time, it was primarily mobile games. Web was still a thing. So it was like, I was producing a mix of mobile and web games, and every now and then there'd be like a console or PC game that came around. But mostly I was managing mobile games. So when we quit and went to the other side, I just like turned around and pitched my same department of like, can we make mobile games for you guys? And so that became our bread and butter. Is we were just making tons of mobile games for Cartoon Network, and we like saved up some cash, and then we're able to then go from that to making our own thing, which was another big risk to take, because it's like, oh, we have all these like clients and stuff now, and we're gonna just forget all that and try to make our own thing and survive off the sales. And our last game did pretty well enough for us to work on another game. So
is it just you and your partner?
So me and him go way back to college, obviously, and our work for hire studio was just the two of us, and then we had a bunch of contractors we worked with. And then Moonlight Kids, my current studio, we have a third partner too, who we've known for years, but so it's the three of us now.
That's amazing. Tell me more about the first game. Tell me the name of it again.
Token Master.
That's the one that did well. I'm sorry. Tell me about the one that you went away from Cartoon Network.
Oh, sure. Yeah. The one that made us like, it became a living, like profitability. Yeah, sure. So that one we released in 2021. It's called The Wild at Heart. That's the game about the two kids.
Wild at Heart.
Yeah. So that game is on PC and all consoles. it was like our first time making like it felt to us like a real video game, like on a TV with a controller and, you know, an adventure and collectibles and all this stuff. So, yeah. Do you want to know a little bit more about how the game, like the actual game,
so like
gameplay and stuff like that?
Yeah. So what is the, so it's available on a PC. So you can get it from, is it Steam?
Steam.
Yep. Yeah. And then, what's the style and the aesthetic of the game?
Sure. Yeah. It's top down action adventure game. You play as Wake and Kirby, these two kids. You kind of switch back and forth between them, solving puzzles that way. But the main hook and mechanic of the game is you're collecting this ever-growing herd of these little creatures called spritelings. So they're like about knee-high to our heroes, but you get like a giant herd of them, like up to 70 or something at some point. But you start with just a few. So you have this like massive herd of these cute little dudes following you around, and then you like chuck them at different things, like go break down this wall for me, or go carry this like cog over to this bit of machinery, or go fight these giant frog monsters. So they're kind of doing all the action, and the kids are just kind of like managing all of that. So the kids can still do stuff. Like Wake has a vacuum that he invented that's strapped to his back, and he can like suck up trash, and that's how he pulls the spritelings back to him. And then Kirby has a magic lantern that she can do similar stuff with. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, and they're like in this magical realm called the Deep Woods. So they're kind of trying to solve their own problems to get home, but they kind of get wrapped up in the story of the Deep Woods too, and it kind of grows into this sort of existential threat sort of thing, as stories do.
Yeah. So their goal is to get home.
Yeah,
but they have
how it starts.
So to your point about the existential threat, like they have this internal like self you know, actualization kind of moment. I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean, it starts small, as you know, they're kids, so they think.
Yeah. Kids things.
You know, when you're a kid, like everything is important and meaningful, and it is to them, and like they're running away from home. That's where the cold open is. It's like they're literally running out of the house, like leaving the house. And then they get lost, and they're like, oh wait, I'm still just a kid, and I'm scared and alone in this like rainy forest. But now they're in this magical realm. So at first they're all just about trying to get home, but then as they get wrapped up more and more in the story of the Deep Woods, they actually get invested in it and realize they like need to help these people before they can help themselves. So
did you? So I'm interested from a story perspective. It's interesting because game mechanics and story, you know, narrative design in a game has to be something that's pretty. I mean, I'm kind of fascinated by that, and the idea that not only do you have to tell the story and you foreshadow things that are going to come up later in the story, things like that, but you also have to help somebody understand the mechanics of the game, and help them kind of develop that. And I'm wondering, like, can you just tell me a little bit more about that? Tell me, like, you know, how it was to understand how that works, and how that's built into what you do. Yeah,
I mean, you're not wrong. Narrative design is like an entire discipline in video games that is separate. Sometimes it's the same person, sometimes it's entirely different departments, but it's separate from the actual writing of like character dialogue and things like that. And in games specifically, narrative design, sometimes a narrative designer won't even write any dialogue, won't write anything. It's their job to merge the gameplay and the mechanics and everything the game designers want to do with all the storytelling that needs to happen as well, especially in a game that can happen totally out of order. Like you don't know which direction the player is going to run. Right. And it's like, well, but I put this cool story beat over here and they didn't they spent 6 hours on this side and they never even saw it. So narrative design is like a huge part of the process. So in Wild at Heart, our writer wrote the script first. So we knew sort of our 5-act structure of how the story was going to unfold. And then separately, I was kind of laying out how the player would progress through the game's different systems and goals. And then we were just constantly collaborating on how to merge those two things together, because he knew how the story needed to like become exponential and like evolve, and these characters' personal growth and relationships needed to evolve. And I'm trying to balance the player's experience being like, okay, well, we need to guide you pretty linearly at first so you like learn the ropes, and then we can open it way up so you can explore wherever you want, so it doesn't feel too linear. And merging those two things is just, you're just constantly doing it basically all throughout the process. So sometimes he would have a beat that really needed to happen, and I'd be like, okay, I'll make sure to like, we'll fit that in to what's going on. And then sometimes I would be like, okay, well, in Act 3, we really need to open the map up to like have it feel like an open world.
Yeah.
And so these are the areas that are all going to open up. So we need like a narrative reason for that to happen.
Yeah.
And so we'll write into the narrative. So like in Wild at Heart and the third act, you're going to all these different shrines to collect these relics. And that was like originally not in the story at all. That was just me being like, we need to open the map up and make the game feel big. And like, that's when the game finally realizes its promise of like open world kind of thing. So that was like written into the script to solve a gameplay purpose. And then oftentimes we're doing the reverse as well. So
that's cool. My last, and then I'll toss it back over to you. I'd love to know, what was the most exciting moment of the of that game and the development of it. And I think your realization, and then ultimately the fact that now it's led to the second game. I'm wondering what was the most exciting moment for you and your team.
Let's see. I could probably think of a few. Well, I'll go kind of chronologically. The first big moment was we got off of a tweet, just an image of the game. There was no game really. It was just like our artist's mock-up. We got invited to a game festival down in San Francisco.
Wow.
And that was like kind of our big break. And they're like, do you want to show your game? And we're like, we don't have a game, but we're like, yes, absolutely. So then we like scrambled for a month and a half to get a demo together.
Right.
So that was huge. And then like 4 or 5 months later, when we signed our first deal with Xbox, was just like a massive celebration internally for us, because we're like, we finally have someone who gave us money to make this thing. And it wasn't like a ton of money, but it was like huge for us.
Yeah.
And then every show is always very exciting, because the day-to-day of like working on the game, you do just get sort of lost in the weeds of it. And there's sometimes if it goes on for long enough, you're just like, oh my God, is this thing even good? Like, I don't even know. I have no idea anymore. Yeah. Like, I'm so close to it. So anytime we would take the game to a show and just like watch people play it, that's like the best thing ever, to just watch people like laugh or smile, or like you like do a little puzzle and someone like you see it like click in their head and they're just like, yes, and they smile or like fist pump. You're just like, oh my God, it's all worth it. So that was huge. Those are always like the most rejuvenating.
Yeah.
Because it's validating too.
Yeah. And the in-person shows, as far as like data goes, they're not like as good as like online demos or something, because online demos, you reach way more people and people are like at their homes playing the game truly as they would in a retail scenario. So that's like, I guess, better data wise, but there's nothing like a show just being there and watching people play it in front of you, even though in person people are always like so nice. They're going to tell you it's great no matter if it's great or not.
Yeah. So it's just some slight bias.
There's definitely bias, but nothing beats it in terms of just like you're talking about like exciting moments. Like it's so great, and it's really rejuvenating too. So you like go home from those and just be like, let's
keep going. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. I found this super interesting. So, just real quick one. What does your family think of where you headed into gaming? Like, do they want you to be, I don't know, doctor or something?
Oh no, not a doctor, but you know, I think when I first told them that this is what we were doing, they were pretty nervous. Like, I got my job at Cartoon Network and they were like, oh my, I can't believe you actually landed a job in games. They're like, great. And then when I told them that I was quitting that a few years later, they're like, what are you doing? Like, hold on to this. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, it's going to be fine. And then, so nowadays they're just like, we were wrong, I guess. Like, it's kind of funny.
Was there a moment back at 15, 14, 13 where like you get off the games? Like,
oh yeah, we had
it's not going to lead to
yeah, that's definitely a joke with my parents. Is like, all those times we told you to stop playing games, I guess, you know, egg on our face. But we definitely had like, we couldn't play games until we were finished our homework. That was a definite one. Always. We couldn't do any screens or anything until we finished our homework. And then we couldn't play games on Tuesdays and Thursdays when we were like middle school, high school.
Yeah. But then the homework was building a film.
Yeah. Or my homework was like going outside and like wrapping a sweatshirt around a tree and hitting it with a stick to get the right sound for our movie project.
Before we get into the rest of the episode, we want to thank the partners and sponsors who made the Kiln Road Trip possible. The Kiln Road Trip is brought to you by Kiln. Kiln is a boutique co-working and flex office community with 13 locations in 6 states across the West, dedicated to providing innovative workspaces that empower your team to thrive. Whether you're a solo visionary or an enterprise-level team of up to 100, Kiln transcends being merely a place to work. It's a hub for learning and connecting with like-minded professionals that will make you and your team love where you work.
And if you haven't stepped foot inside a kiln yet, you really need to. On this road trip, we visited every single location, and trust us when we say once you see these beautifully designed spaces, meet the talented team, and connect with fellow members, you won't want to work anywhere else.
Locations include Utah, Colorado, Idaho, Oregon, California, and Arizona. And they're growing too, with multiple locations set to open in 2024.
Yeah, so be sure to check out the kiln locations nearest you by booking a tour at kiln.com and answer SWELL in the question, how did you hear about us? Once you complete the tour, you'll be entered into a competition where you could win a 1-year membership, their club membership at Kiln.
Yep, you heard that. That's kiln.com, book a tour, and be sure to mention SWELL in the question, how did you hear about us?
The Kiln Road Trip is also brought to you by Moterra Camper Vans, a luxury camper van rental company for iconic road trips. Their top-of-the-line vans are available at 7 locations located near America's best outdoor adventure destinations. They have consistently earned the highest customer ratings in the industry, making Moterra camper vans your gateway to adventure without sacrificing on comfort or service.
That's true, and initially we wanted to take this journey in a 1960s VW bus, but thankfully we found Moterra instead. With 3 van options, we took the Pop Top Classic, which sleeps 4 and is best for those who want to maximize floor space and storage. This was critical for us because it needed to sleep the entire crew, we needed space to edit, and we were traveling with large amounts of equipment, luggage, and other goodies that we picked up along the way.
And this van took us through all 3,580 miles of the trip. Super comfortable and sweet to drive.
And actually, Moterra offers fully planned itineraries if you'd rather leave the planning to someone else.
Visit gomoterra.com/swell. That's gomoterra.com/swell.
This episode is also brought to you by Taurus. Taurus is leading the charge in home energy storage. Taurus makes it easy to achieve energy independence and a greener tomorrow. The Taurus station provides everything you need to generate clean power, efficiently store electricity, and easily manage your energy use.
And installing a Taurus station offers plenty of benefits, including save money on your electricity bill,
also ensure energy security with backup power during outages,
reduce carbon emissions with renewables.
You can also automate EV charging and HVAC systems with 100% renewables.
And enjoy unrivaled system monitoring and support.
If you like the sound of those benefits, get a quote to build your Taurus station in less than 30 seconds. Super easy at taurus.co. That's TORUS.co. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Maybe it should have been building games back there. Like, every homework was turned into a game, but it sounds like it's pretty much what you were doing, like finding something. I think we need to wrap up. I was going to go down the avenue of like where I think we covered a lot about the game, but even where you get the inspiration, but we'll have to wrap up.
Yeah.
So what do you think of Kiln? And like why Kiln? I mean, obviously everyone's saying it's beautiful. But what else why here?
Yeah, I've worked from home for a long time, almost 8 or 9 years now. So I'm always like on the hunt for co-working spaces. And pre-COVID, I was at one across town, and then shortly after, things kind of opened up again, and then like within a few months, they actually sold the building, so they closed. And then so ever since then, that was like late 2020, 2021 or something. I just like every few months, I'll just Google for co-working spaces around Portland and kind of just like look at them and like, oh, check that one out, check that out. And then over this past summer, the Kiln popped up like coming soon. So I shot them an email, and Alexa was like, come tour the space. And it was fully under construction. But I was like, yeah, this seems great. Like, let me know. So I signed. I was been here day one, basically.
That's incredible.
So, I just need, I don't come in every single day, but I do come in more than I thought I would. Like 3 or 4 times a week. So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is your vision just to do games for the next 20 years?
That would be great. Yeah. I mean,
So
we're going to keep doing this as long as people keep buying the games. So
just get bigger and better.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Where do people go to just find out about the next game, the upcoming project? Like where can they get updates? And
yeah, the single best place to go for our stuff is moonlightkids.co.
Okay.
Moonlightkids.co. All of our stuff is on there. We have not announced our new game yet, so you won't find that anywhere on the site, but it will eventually be there. And you can follow us on all of the socials, and all those links are on there. Our Discord is where people can like actually chat, like where we hang out on our Discord with our players and stuff. So
cool.
So it's pretty fun.
And then the last question we like to ask all the people that we talk to on this road trip and in our podcast is, in your opinion, what does it take to create something that never existed before?
Oh gosh, I think you've got to come. It has to come from yourself, from your own personal experiences, because that's like truly something that's unique that no one else can replicate. If you're just trying to chase like what you think is like the next great idea, you're always going to be racing 1,000 other people who have the same idea, and it's just like a first to market problem at that point. So I mean, I think if you're truly trying to get something unique, it comes from yourself, and then doesn't matter if you make it today or in 50 years. No one else can make it, so take your time.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Kiln Road Trip. Be sure to follow along on the rest of the journey, and you can do that in 2 ways. 1, subscribe to the podcast, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or maybe even watching on YouTube, and follow along on all of our social media platforms, whether you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, @the Swell Pod. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.